All right. So this is Elizabeth Hardig with the American Planning Association and the Plan4Health project, and I'm here today to welcome you all to our Creating Videos webinar. If you are on the line, you're welcome to just unmute your line and ask questions throughout the webinar. It's only 30 minutes, so we want to get the most out of it. And really, we hope that it's an informative and casual conversation, so feel free to jump in and ask questions. You're also welcome to send us questions via the chat box on the right-hand side of your screen. So we are recording the webinar, and we will send out, I'm happy to send you an individual email with a copy of the webinar, or you could find it on the Plan4Health website. So our presenter today is Grace Kyung and she's a bicycle and pedestrian planner at TrailNet in St. Louis, Missouri. And Grace is managing the Plan4Health project there to engage and educate community stakeholders through using lighter, quicker, cheaper projects to create pop-up traffic calming demonstrations. Grace offers technical assistance on projects on how to improve the built environment and to increase accessibility for all modes of transportation. Grace has experience in active transportation planning, community development and outreach, facilitation, and team building. Grace is a certified league cycling instructor from the League of American Bicyclists and has experience in leading bike education and encouragement programs. And Grace, of course, is a perfect example of Plan4Health. She has a master's degree in public health and a master's degree in urban planning from the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. So Grace, we're so excited to have you here, and I will turn it over to you.
Thanks, Elizabeth, and hi everyone who's on the call. So as Elizabeth said, I am with the St. Louis Plan4Health group, and we are working in partnership with APA Missouri and an organization called the HEAL Partnership. So today I'm going to be talking about a video we created through our project, and at the end of this presentation I'll be showing our 5-minute video as well. So the overview of this presentation is that I'm going to be covering our timeline for the process, the RFQ process and selection, the video visiting session, the filming schedule, post-production, and the video response that we've received so far. So this is a really brief overview of our video making process for one of the videos. We were able to create 2 videos because of the grant, which was a really great opportunity, but all the yellow that you see between September and October was kind of our pre-video making process. Is the visiting session. It was selecting who our filmmaker was going to be, and then our project was unique in that we filmed 3 out of our 4 of our pop-up traffic calming demonstrations, since we thought visually this would be a great way to capture what the project was about. And then the orange is how the drafts came together and when the final video came together. So an RFQ process, An RFQ, really quickly, if you're not familiar with the term, it's a request for a quote. It's soliciting quotes for a product or a service. So for us, getting to work as a nonprofit, the RFQ process was pretty easy and really straightforward. The CDC, APA, APHA, they didn't really have any guidelines that we necessarily had to follow for the grant, which is a really big relief for us. So we didn't have that many grant restrictions or any really nonprofit restrictions. So the RFQ we created was only 2 pages where we asked for people to send us the quotes. So for the visioning of our video, though, we really wanted that to be clear within the RFQ. We wanted people to understand that we're applying to be the filmmaker for the project of what we were trying to do and why this video is really important for us to share the story of this grant and the project and how it's going to affect the city of St. Louis. So we actually included a sample video link, which was really helpful because the filmmakers already knew what sort of video we'd like to produce. And you have to make sure you clearly define when the deadline is, when you need the request for proposal or quotes to be submitted, and advertising the RFQ is key because you don't want to just put it on your Facebook. You want to really reach out to the arts community or whatever community works well with your group so that you're getting a diverse set of applicants to apply to be your filmmaker. And know beforehand what your minimum and your maximum quote is because you're going to get a large range of quotes. So it's really important where you have funding for and what you can actually complete with the funding that you have. So for RFQ selection, this was our scoring sheet. We really just talked about, well, how do we want the filmmaker to affect the project? And ultimately, we use the scoring sheet to looking at over the different applications that we received throughout the process, and we chose to pick someone who had a similar vision to what we were trying to do. In that RFQ, we asked them, each person that applied, to give us a 200 or less word, so a short paragraph essentially of what do safer streets mean to you, and how do you envision the streets of St. Louis to be. And that was a really great way for us to choose the filmmaker that we did, because we felt like they really understand the mission of our organization and purpose of this project and why it's important to the city of St. Louis. And this selection criteria sheet and the RFQ that we use, you guys can access that template. So for the contract, whoever you're working with in developing the film usually has some sort of contract that you can use with them. So our filmmaker had one, and he created the contract, and we just went through it with him of, well, what are our deliverables? How many times can we edit the video before you would like a final copy? Those are important things to discuss and negotiate during the contract, because obviously you want to have at least some freedom of getting to edit the video a couple times before they start maybe charging you extra fees if they need to edit it a third or fourth time. And for us, it was actually really important to have a drone for the video, because we were really doing a project that's changed street design, and we wanted people to understand overview of what those changes were and how the streets were going to look differently. And we actually reached out to different references of our top 2 candidates for the filmmaker process. And again, knowing what your quote and your budget is. Our video that we created for one of them, the one I'll be showing today, was $2,000, and we found out that was actually a really good steal for getting the high quality video that we got. So it's really important you really do reach out to different communities, because people who have been in this business longer, who've seen themselves as having a lot more experience, they might create a really amazing video, but they might charge you $6,000, $10,000, because those were some of the numbers that we got in our quotes. So we were lucky that our cheapest option, which we weren't sure how that would work for us, turned out to be the best decision that we could have made, because he was really trying to break into the St. Louis scene, so that's why his quotes were a little bit cheaper. And then this is usually a given when you work with a filmmaker, but just make sure you're aware of it, that you can have ownership of the video files, and to request for the files to be separate, your footage and sound, if your filmmaker themselves don't bring that up. So the video visioning session, we found this to be a really important process for us while we were creating the video, because we really wanted to understand, well, what was the purpose, and we wanted our filmmakers to believe in the purpose of the video too. So our filmmaker actually approached us with 3 different ways that he could create the video, and then we went with the one that we thought was the best way to share this whole Plan4Health project. And understanding who is your target audience before you even start filming, because that way it really helps your filmmaker narrow down, well, what footage are they trying to capture throughout the demonstration? What sort of sound bites are they trying to get if you're going to have interviews throughout the video? And knowing what that timeline is of when do you need the video to be ready by, or when would you like it ready by, because it can really slip out of your fingers if you don't say you need the video by a certain time. Even if you don't need it for a certain time, you should still pick a deadline. And what are those filming objectives? Really figuring out who, when, where, why throughout the visioning session is really important, because it'll help you figure out, again, who that target audience is, and then knowing what your length of the video is. So your filmmaker knows if they're only supposed to create a 2-minute video, they really need to make sure that X, Y, Z shots are taken through whatever you're trying to share in your message. And throughout the process of creating that vision for the video, make sure to include your partner's input of any partners you might be working with in the community. So for the filming schedule, ours is really easy. We just asked the filmmaker to be there at our demonstration days. The reason why he wasn't there for the last demonstration day was just really because of funding issues, but we were really happy we could capture 3 out of the 4 demonstrations we did through the Plan4Health grant. So your interviews are really key if you choose to do interviews throughout the video. It's important for your filmmaker to know who the stakeholders of the project are, who are the community stakeholders, city stakeholders, local leaders, and so forth. And for us, it was important not to have some sort of script. We wanted that whoever the interviewers were to feel free to just talk about what the demonstration meant for them and how they felt throughout the whole project. And it's important for your filmmaker to, A, know who that target audience is so that they can develop the questions that are most appropriate for the video that you're creating, but to also know who your stakeholders were. We found this to be a little bit of a problem for us, that at a couple times at the demonstration that our filmmaker didn't realize that they were supposed to film a certain person. So it's really important to touch in each day and make sure that they get the interviews that you're seeking. And our footage goals were to capture setup, during the event, and breakdown. So post-production, the editing process is really dependent on how your filmmaker works and what you need as an organization and what capacity that you have. So our filmmaker was really sweet in that he let us edit the video about 2 to 3 times before he produced the final version with the coloring and all the right titles that we wanted to include. So that worked out to be really good for us because we didn't have the time or capacity to do more than a couple edits, but within those couple edits, we were really good with our communication, and we were responsive, and we were really collaborative, because if you're in a strict timeline, which you can be with this grant, that you want to make sure that you're on top of your communication and really making sure that whoever you're working with understands what you need in order to accomplish what your goals are. And then, of course, with the approval process of the final video, you need to make sure you understand who needs to approve the film, because you don't want to come to the end where you think the film is done and then your community stakeholders believe that things weren't included in the video that they thought were going to be included. So the video has been a great tool for us in building relationships with stakeholders. This image of me with a few other people as another TrailNet staff member and an elected official and a strong community champion that we hired from the grant. So it really helped us tie into the purpose of this project and why it was important for the city of St. Louis, but it was a great way for us to focus on equity. We were able to use the video as a tool to really capture the story and the voices of the communities that we were working directly with, because we wanted to show that this video and what we were doing through this project were all intertwined with a lot of really great stakeholders that helped us create what we did in advancing this different street design by using the traffic calming demonstrations. And overall, we were just really able to promote the safe connections that we were working towards. So recommendations while you think about if you want to create a video or not is, regardless if you're going to create a video or not, it's really important to take high quality photos if you can, or to just take photos at your events and everything you're doing, because especially with this project, the best way to really share the work that you're doing for each individual project is actually through the photos that you're going to be taking. Throughout the grant, APHA really like to have those photos so that they can really share the successes that you have in each of your communities. And most of the photos that you actually saw throughout this presentation or in any of our St. Louis Plan4Health media is actually taken through my iPhone. So high quality photos, yes, they're important, but if you have just your camera phone, I found that it works really well. And communication, as I've already said, is really key. It's really key to be in communication with your filmmaker, your community stakeholders, for them to really understand the whole process so that you can create the best social media or video that is really good for your community, and always sticking to that vision and your target audience and making sure that you understand before anything happens what that is, so you're not making any last-minute changes throughout the process. And knowing what your budget is, it can be really tight, so you want to make sure you're finding the best person for the budget that you have. And releases and waivers, it's really important and key that if you're working with your community and you have a bunch of kids running around, which is a problem we ran into, is that you get the waivers from the parents beforehand, because it's a lot of work to find the waivers and the approval that you need after the video is posted, which was a speed bump that we hit. We were lucky that some of the kids that we caught in footage were actually just at a neighboring elementary school, so it worked out really fine. But to just do the waivers and the releases as you're filming is the easiest way to do it. And just to have a lot of flexibility. A lot of things aren't necessarily going to be in your control, especially at day of events. So to know that different footage that you weren't planning might need to get captured in order to create the message that you need. And then we actually, for our project, created handwritten thank you notes, which are just a really good way to interact with your community, to take extra time out to really thank those who are involved with the process. So what's next for us in our project is that we created a second video. It's about a 10-minute long video. We call it our extended cut. And it's more of a documentary focus of why this project was important to the city of St. Louis from a community perspective. So we were really fortunate that we were able to use the grant to create 2 videos. We're using the project to push for a traffic calming ordinance, so it will be a new policy within the city that if a neighborhood wants to have some sort of traffic calming feature in the area, that they can apply for it through this ordinance. And then we're working with each of our different neighborhoods to bring in permanent changes, and we've actually been really successful in using this project as a way of educating and empowering people to be able to have the conversations to bring in permanent change. And then we're also creating a how-to guide, so if anyone wants to do their own pop-up demonstration, they have the resources and the materials that they need to help them get started in thinking about what that might look like. So these are the 2 links to the different Plan4Health videos. And then I'm going to be showing you guys the video right now of our shorter one. And Elizabeth, are we doing questions after this video?
That would be great. Yeah, I think it'd be nice to see the final product. Unless anyone has a burning question or something they want to ask right now, we could go ahead and watch the video and then chat a little bit more with Grace.
Okay, I will show the video first. We're out here today working in partnership with TrailNet, the American Planning Association, and the American Public Health Association to set up 1 day of traffic calming. And the basic premise is we just want to see what people respond to. Plan4Health is a CDC-funded grant from the American Planning Association and American Public Health Association. Dutchtown is the kickoff event for us while we do one in DeVille/Greaterville, Fond du Lac, and Jeff David. The purpose of this project is really to help people in St. Louis understand what traffic calming is and how we could redesign streets to be more welcoming of activity, to get people out walking, biking, and kind of enjoy public space. The CD happens all the time, and it makes a very unsafe place for many of us to walk, and actually so many of our families around here to walk. And this particular area over here, I think, has about 30% of households without access to a car. So walking pedestrian safety is a very, very, very important part of our neighborhood.
Many of our students walk to school. We currently only have 4 buses, and so it's important that our school students arrive safe to school each and every day, and it makes it difficult when we have people that are going by that just choose not to stop for whatever reason. We've had, so far this school year, 3 accidents that didn't involve anyone from our school, but just accidents that occurred right behind here on base.
It's real busy. It never stops. It's hard to get them to pay attention when I'm like right tucked in right here. I think if people are from around the city, it seems like a tunnel almost. Like people just take bait to get to the main spot that they're trying to get to.
A lot of residents in our community feedback let us know that this is an area that a lot of residents live on, but cars are always traveling very fast. Today it's been really great with the feedback because we found out this area actually has a lot of rich history to the community, so we're happy to be here to really slow down the streets and bring this neighborhood back to what it used to be.
the goal is to just open people's minds to what would be possible and expose them to new, urban design layouts. Maybe that could lead to recommendations on actual infrastructure.
I am clocking the speed of drivers as they approach the middle median. I've had a lot of 14 and 15 and 19, and the highest so far has been 21.
3 days ago, a guy comes flying this way and there's two other guys flying that way, running right through the stop signs, and he hit like 3 cars on this side of the street, which are my neighbors, and a car that was coming through the stop sign. He hit the car too and kept going.
The best that could come out of it is that community members, follow up and say, hey, what's going on with that? Is something going to happen? And that we get a response from organizations like Trailnet in the city in terms of actually implementing something.
It's been going really well. We've got people talking to us, people kind of seeing their streets in a new way. We've gotten some elected officials and engineers out. It's been great. Everything you see here on the street will be available in the future for other groups in other neighborhoods to explore traffic calming on their own. We're going to store all of this stuff and make it publicly available. We're going to have sets of sample plans so people can figure out how to set it up on their own and how to get the permits so that they can do this in their neighborhood and get their aldermen interested in building safer, slower streets.
Thank you, Grace. I always forget how great that video is. It's so well done. I wonder if you could put up the slide where you have the 2 options, just in case folks want to copy the URLs and watch the extended cut later. So I remember seeing that for the first time at the American Public Health Association conference and just really I guess just being so moved by it, because I think you were able to bring in so many voices that clearly TrailNet and the coalition were driving the video production, but it really did seem to include perspectives from all different, many different stakeholders, and it was very well designed. So I think it's just a really fantastic piece.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
I have to say, I really learned today about your visioning process and really sitting down and talking through with the director kind of where your target audience is and what you were hoping to achieve. And I can see how that really paid off. And of course, it wouldn't just be that he happened to bump into the right person to get that fabulous quote. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes work, so that makes perfect sense.
You make it sound like I did a lot more than I did.
I have a couple questions, but I wondered if maybe other folks who are on the line, you're welcome to unmute your line and ask Grace directly, or you could chat us through the box on the right-hand side of your screen. If you had any questions or concerns for Grace, or if you're thinking about this for your own projects and are just wanting to bounce some ideas off of us, you're welcome to do that. So one of my questions is really about that calendar. So I'm really glad you started things off kind of pacing out your RFQ process and then the actual events that you're hoping to film. And it ended up being, would you say, about 3 months that you were thinking about the video, kind of actually implementing the video plan, or I'm sure you were thinking about this long before you actually released the RFQ.
Let's see. Pull up the calendar. So for thinking about the video plan, September 1st is when we created the filmmaker RFQ, and then we selected someone October 1st. So we had 1 month to really figure out who was going to be the right fit for us in the vision that we had for the video. And we probably started talking about the visioning of the video in August before we created the filmmaker RFQ and released it. And I was really lucky in that the team I work with at TrailNet and the community partners that we partner with for the grant all kind of trusted in what direction I wanted to take the video. And then we were even more fortunate to have a filmmaker that understood what I said and then produced like the best video ever we could have had for this project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have to say I think it was a very smart idea to request a vision from the filmmaker and really make sure that your mission's aligned as kind of that being, it sounded like that was really the starting point. So once you found folks who were operating in the same space with the same kind of core values and understanding, then you could take the next step and think about the logistics of the shoot or kind of the details of the target audience. But I think that's a really smart idea to make sure that from the very beginning you were both on the same page in terms of the overall goal.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say that's something that I for some reason, I think video is a little intimidating for me. So I think, of course, we would think about that when we're working with any other partner on any other part of the project, but somehow it seems so far outside of my comfort zone, I guess, that I guess I hadn't thought about applying the same principles to videographers and to filmmakers. Of course, it would be the same philosophy.
Yeah, the whole process, this is my first time hiring someone for professional work like this, and it was surprisingly really not that difficult once we found the filmmaker. The filmmaker was super enthusiastic, and I think that's an important quality to look for is someone who's just so enthusiastic about your project, loves what you're trying to do in the city that they live in, that it really inspires them to create a better video because they really they saw the value in the project and what we were trying to do for the city.
Mm-hmm. I also thought it was an interesting piece of advice to think about the number of edits that you would like to have in the contract phase, and especially when we're all working with so many different stakeholders, and your point about making sure everybody had a chance to give feedback before it goes live, and everybody's kind of signed the waivers and all that good stuff. That's good advice to think about the number of edits. I'm confident I wouldn't have thought of that, so that you have some wiggle room. And it's not just the professional filmmaker's perspective, but it's also, again, another place to really engage the community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. Yeah, like I said, we were just really lucky with the filmmaker that we got. I think he even threw in like one more edit because he wanted it to be done, and we were like, oh, but there's a couple things that if you could change it, it'd be really nice to make it a better video. And he was like, of course, and he was just so nice about it that, yeah, it's just nice. I think we got a really nice filmmaker who walked us through the process as well. And then a couple of my coworkers at the office have had experience in creating videos as well, so it just kind of all came together really nicely.
Mm-hmm. Well, great. I know we have definitely shared this video quite a bit ourselves, and it's just such a great way to capture the spirit of the project and your work, and you're absolutely right about taking pictures, even if you can't put together a video, snapping shots whenever you can. It's really makes such a difference, especially for folks who aren't living in St. Louis or who aren't at the local level, to really see what's happening on the ground. So it always brightens my day when when I get a picture of Plan4Health out there happening in the local world. So I just want to make sure if anybody else has a question for Grace, feel free to go ahead and chat it in the box or ask us over the line. And of course, Grace has just put up her contact info. And you're also welcome to email me too, Elizabeth Hardig, and I'm happy to send you a copy of the recording or the links that Grace was just sharing. Well, great. Well, I have to say this was a fantastic mini webinar with a mini video. It all worked out. And thank you so much, Grace, for sharing your expertise and your experience with everybody. And again, we will post a recording of this webinar on the Plan4Health website. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to contact Grace directly, or I will go ahead and chat my email address as well.
Thanks, Elizabeth, for having me.
Thanks, Grace, and thank you all for listening and have a wonderful afternoon.